Welcome, welcome, welcome to the SubHub podcast. I'm MK Sullivan.
And I'm Danny Moreno. And today we have a fun-filled episode. We have a Q&A with Neversecond founder and CEO Bill Armstrong, where we'll talk more about the product, some common Q&As that people have for it, and new products that are coming out soon or just recently came out. We really enjoyed this conversation again. So just a reminder there, SubHub 25 for 25% off your order. And then we're gonna talk about the second race of the Skyrunner World Series, which is happening this weekend, the Calamorro Skyrace.
Yes, Calamorro happens in Benalmádena, Spain. I might be saying that wrong, but we're giving it our best shot. And not only is it the second race of the series this year, but it is the beginning of the U23 season. This year, Skyrunning announced that they were going to have a separate ranking for U23s so that they could also make it to the final, but with fewer races. They only have to do 2 races to qualify, and the races that they can qualify in are shorter races to begin with, like within the series. And so they did this in order to hopefully keep younger athletes healthier, keep them away from burnout at such a young age, but also give them a chance to like compete against the best athletes in the world.
Yeah, I think this is a great initiative on the Skyrunner World Series part, just because like personally coming into the sport didn't have a lot of guidance or mentorship on what's too much racing, which is a easy trap to fall into because there are just so many cool races. And I think at first you realize that the recovery from trail running is a little different from track or road. But then you start to quickly realize that you still need to recover. So it's just really cool that they really are, focusing on just 2 races, and they are 2 of the shorter races too. They have more options, but the goal is to point them in the direction of the shorter races.
Yeah, and they're also under 23, so they can recover quicker, but just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yep, exactly.
So we just wanted to highlight there are 3 athletes in each race this go around. The first on the men's side being Alfonso Verissimo from Portugal, Ed Brewer from Great Britain, and Iba Cebrian from Spain. And then on the women's side, Nikola Matkova from Slovenia, Petra Brewer from Great Britain, and Maria Beosa from Spain. I'm just now realizing that Ed and Petra possibly siblings or
Oh,
partners. They have the same last name and they're both from Great Britain. If not, sorry
that's
for assuming
probably
anything.
a good guess. That's a very good guess. I think there's 2 more guys too, though, actually.
Oh, I may have
Um,
just missed them.
Nicola, there it looks like Alvaro Osance, which we're guessing is Danny Osance's little brother. Did you
Right.
already see that one?
No, I didn't.
And then Gonzal Esparza, which looks like he's running for Solomon, Spain. So, yeah, that'll be fun to see those athletes, and who knows, this might be one of their breakout years. And for a race like Calamaro to be one of those races that are being offered to these young athletes, I think is an excellent pick because the more I've learned about this race, the more it is such like a big opener to still kind of like that early spring season year. Um, Something else that is unique to this Sky Race that they don't have at all Sky Races is they're going to have a record bonus, which is really cool. The current record holder are by 2 athletes that we have mentioned many, many times on this podcast. One being the Sarah Alonso, who now runs for ASICS, and then Antonio Martinez, who he recently is also ASICS. He switched
Yeah.
from Scarpa, which was a big signing by them. And he was also the overall champion last year. So, yeah, 2 very stout records to be chasing.
Yeah, they have the records. They're going to be there. There's going to be prize money. We don't know how much. Skyrunning and Calamora like just put this out on Instagram, and we did search around a bit, but we weren't able to find the actual record bonus on top of the just regular prize money. Regular prize money this year, though, will go through 6th place, and I think this is probably separate of Skyrunning because I'm pretty sure Skyrunner goes through top 10, if I remember correctly. But on their website, it's first through sixth, 1,200 euros, 1,000 euros, 600 euros, 300, 200, 100.
Yeah, I'm very curious what that course record bonus is going to be. I don't know.
I would
I think
imagine it would
maybe
be more than first.
maybe, yeah, like I could see it being like 500 euro, but I could also
Yeah.
see it being 1,000 euro or something like that. And yeah, it does look like it 6th through 10th all get 100 euro.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, all the rest, like you said, are what stand 1st through 5th. Um, But yeah, this Calamorro Sky Race, like where it's located in Spain, it's like the very most southern part of Spain, like near Gibraltar, almost to where it's like across from the top of Africa. So with that, this race historically has been very warm. And even last year it was very hot, seeing some like pretty hard days for some athletes, even borderline scary, which is why we think that's why they changed their race start. It actually starts at 5 p.m., which is pretty cool. So that factor alone makes me think that the records are going to go down because Sarah and Antonio, while they were running different years, both ran them on very warm, hot days. Um, yeah, so if you want to catch the live stream, they are going to have a live stream on YouTube. We will make sure to link that in the show notes, but that will be 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But
And
yeah,
we've,
tell us. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say we've heard that the live stream is really good. It is in Spanish, but the coverage is supposed to be like pretty high quality.
Yeah. Yeah. You some weather stats that MK found were the high of being 75 degrees, but with 60% humidity, and a low of 64 degrees with also humidity with maybe some clouds and maybe potentially a little bit windy. So I would guess they might get some of that like sundowner effect where it's like warm wind in the like the later the day gets to sunset.
Yeah. So it'll be maybe less hot, but it'll still be pretty hot with the low only being 64. But yeah, so this race is like known for being very punchy, very fast still though, and like relatively short. Like Sarah Alonso's record is pretty much right around 3 hours. And so you pretty much start the race and immediately climb up Mount Calamorro, which is a 730 or no, sorry, 650-meter climb, which is just over 2,000 feet of gain. And then you bomb down 1,000 feet, and then you go straight back into another 2,000-foot climb, and then you bomb down that. And then the final big climb is only 1,500 feet, woohoo.
Oh, only.
Only 1,500 feet, but then you lose 2,000 more feet. You think, okay, I'm almost done. And then you have a short 500-foot climb before descending down to the finish. And I don't know about you, Danny, but that 500-foot climb would probably be the one that made me cry.
Yeah, definitely. It potentially could be one where like, if athletes are close together, it's kind of like
Hmm.
that final punch. But yeah, this course is essentially like three major steep climbs, all kind of scrambly, like looking at the videos and seeing photos and stuff, like you are using your entire body. You're pulling yourself up. Some people have some hiking poles, but most everyone has like gloves on. Like using that for scrambling because you're like in bushes and stuff like that. Honestly, in my head, immediately looking at this course, I feel like this would be a very hard course to have in the US, like permit wise.
Yes. Yeah, I mean I think that like hiking poles would even just get in your way because you're like boulder scrambling in the beginning. So if you're trying to use poles, they're just gonna get stuck in between cracks, and better to just have gloves and bear crawl it all the way up the top, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Gloves. And yeah, you're only out there for 3 hours, so you're probably not carrying much. And there's aid stations, I think, at the top of the first two climbs, maybe the third climb as well. But yeah, this course definitely suits people who I think are used to scrambling because if you're someone who runs and doesn't scramble, that like full body effect isn't as smooth in my opinion. Just like, yeah, using your hands and pulling yourself up and stuff, and that can create some like fatigue in areas that maybe you're not used to. But you have to be able to transition because like you immediately start going downhill, and these downhills like
They're
are
pretty
te
runnable.
they're technical, but they look like pretty runnable looking at like the splits of the athletes. Like for example, Sarah Alonso was running between like 7 and 8 minute pace a mile. And so if you can navigate that like semi-technical terrain, you can definitely move. Yeah, to me it's kind of just like vert intervals.
Yeah. It's like you have to use your whole body on the way up, and then on the way down you just like try to move fast but recover as best as possible because you're gonna have to scramble up the next hill.
Exactly. Uh,
But this is like we said, it's the second race. So we do have some returners from last race, but for the most part, it's it's about half and half. We've got like half returners since it's two back-to-back Spain races and then some new additions to the series. On the women's side, we have Holly Page from Great Britain. She was the 2018 overall champion. I don't know much about Holly, but I know she's your teammate. Has she been skyrunning since then much?
I feel like anything Holly does is sky running because she's just like she gravitates to that technical terrain when she's
She's a
training.
fell runner.
Yeah, she's a fell runner. Holly is an insane downhiller. And she unfortunately has had like a series of like running related injuries, but also just kind of like freak accidents the last couple years. So personally, I'm really excited to see that she signed up for this race. I was just running with her in Fuerteventura, and like she's in really good shape. So I could definitely see her. It wouldn't surprise me if she was on the podium of this race. So yeah, I am very excited to see her. We have three Spanish women that we think are going to be in that front mix as well. One of them
Four
is oh,
with four
four.
with Orhana, yeah.
Oh yeah, and Oyana. Julia Font, which we've highlighted her before. She won Ultra Pure New Marathon last year. She was just at Acantilados as well, and I believe she came in fifth there.
I think she
Yep.
was fifth, yeah.
And then we have Lide Eurostasru. Sorry, that last name's a little tough for me, but she's coming off a win at Acantilados del Norte. We do think this is like a slightly different course. This one is definitely more technical, but she beat an incredible field there. So it'll be exciting to see like how versatile she is even within like the sky running realm. And then we have Sarah Alonso, who is the current course record holder. And this is kind of she's my pick to win. Sarah Alonso on the line means she's ready to go, and she's just like she's a racer. And obviously, she has experience on this course. And then, last but not least, we have Oyana Cotazar, which she was third at Acantilados del Norte, and she just is also a racer.
She knows how to race. She's always in it. I think we say that every time we talk about her. Like, don't ever count Oyana out because she's always there.
Yeah, she's consistent. She's like consistently in like the top five.
Yeah.
Like, she hasn't had like a big win of recent memory, but she's always like adding to the race excitement.
Yeah. And then on the men's side, we have Alex Garcia Carrillo, who was third at the World Vertical in Thailand in 2022. Our course record holder and last year's champion, Antonio Martinez. I mean, he's always spicy on these races, and this is his first race of the season as well. So, or at least for skyrunning. So it'll be interesting to see where he's at. Frederick Trechand, who was he second at Acantilados to he was fourth, but he was going back and forth with Roberto for quite a while in the beginning there. And he was also third overall in the Sky Runner series last year. Marcos Villamuera from Spain. I don't know much about this kid, to be honest, but he was 11th at the World Championship mountain running in Innsbruck. So I'm going to assume that was the classic race.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And
too.
yeah. Nico Molina, who was the 2022 overall Skyrunner winner. And then Roberto De Lorenzi, who just came off of a win at Acantilados del Norte, as well as winning the Sky Masters last year.
Yeah, and just ran a sub 30 10K in 29:52 as well.
Oh no, he was close, but I don't think he ran sub 30.
He,
Did he?
yeah, he,
He ran, oh yeah, he ran 29:52. Oh my gosh. On a course that Francesco was telling us is like fairly hilly.
yeah, yeah. So this honestly is a great mix of, people who are well known for their technical skills, but also people who are just like fast. So it'll be interesting to see how it lines up. Personally, my picks are Sarah Alonso in first, Lide Yersdasu in second, Holly Page in third on the women's side. And then the men's side, it's hard for me to bet against Antonio Martinez in first, and then Roberto Del just because he's really sharp right now. I'm curious to see what the rest of his season's going to look like past this race, but I think in the moment he is very sharp. And then, man, kind of hard, but I'm leaning towards Alex Garcia.
Okay. My
Yeah.
picks are exactly the same as yours for the women's side. And then on the men's, I'm gonna go Antonio Roberto, but then I'm gonna go Nico Molina, who was the 2022 overall winner, especially because he's a Spanish athlete.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Yeah. But
So
yeah,
is
as
Alex
we
Garcia.
mentioned, yeah, yeah. And yeah, it'll be interesting. Honestly, I feel like of the names we mentioned, any shape or form they end up won't surprise me, but it's always nice to like throw some picks out there.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that's Saturday at 5 p.m. Central European Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time if you want to watch. Kind of convenient for those of us in the US. And we will include that YouTube link in our show notes. And now we're going to talk to Bill Armstrong again. So hopefully you guys enjoy just a little bit more Q&A, clarification, conversation about Neversecond.
Yeah, and they also will be at Canyon's endurance races. Wow, I said that weird. Canyon's endurance, is it races or runs?
I think it's runs.
Oh, weird. That doesn't come out as okay. And Canyon's Endurance runs, which is the North American major at the end of this month. They will be there. So, listen to this Q&A, think of any other questions you might have and go ask him in person. Bill articulates more than once that he's all about that like person to person, like human to human contact. And if you decide you do want to try the product, again, SubHub 25 at the Neversecond website.
Hey, Bill, great to have you back on the podcast.
Thanks so much. Great seeing you both as well.
Yeah, we're excited to get into specifically like more focused questions on the product. Since the last episode, we talked more about the brand philosophy, kind of how it originated, etc. And so our first question is, what makes Neversecond C series products different than any other fueling products?
Well, I think the main difference is that we started the C series products as a system. So I would say they're foundationally built correctly. A lot of brands launch one product at a time without much thought as to, well, the product that they launched before and the one that's coming next. So we spent a lot of time making sure that the products in the C series were launched as a system. But what do I mean by that? They all use the same composition of 2-to-1 glucose to fructose in terms of the carbohydrate composition. They all use 30-gram increments of carbohydrate and or multiples thereof. And we also use 200 milligrams of sodium per 30 grams of carbohydrate. We do this so that you can kind of mix and match the products and handle your calculations much more easily.
Speaking of, what do the C30 and C90 names mean on the C series products? And what do the dots indicate on the Neversecond product labels?
Okay, so when all of our products are named according to in the C series are named according to the carbohydrate content. So a C30 product contains 30 grams of carbohydrate. A C90 product contains 90 grams of carbohydrate. We do this because the guidelines for endurance fueling are all based on 30-gram carbohydrate increments. So if you're out for an hour and you need 30 grams, you just grab one gel or one serving of drink mix. If you're out for 3 hours and you're going to take 90 grams an hour, as an example, you just need to easily, grab the items that add up to 90. Now the dots, 1 dot equals 30 grams. We do this because some folks just want to be able to kind of grab the number of units. And so we've also tried to make that kind of visual communication easier for the athletes. I mean, a lot of athletes, when they're in effort, they have a bit of brain fog too, in terms of kind of like they're tired and they're not thinking clearly. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for athletes to really understand very quickly what they're taking.
Yeah, I I think that's incredible because I've definitely been one of those athletes that as the long run is going on, I have like a 23-gram carb or like a 40-gram, and you're like trying to do the math of how much you've eaten already based on the gels, and just having those easy, simple numbers is so nice. Curious why the focus is on, like, personally, I've come across athletes who are still drawn to the amount of calories versus carbs. And I'm curious why you focus on the carb number versus, doing calories, I guess.
I mean, I guess a lot of that would depend on who you talk to. I mean, calories are such kind of a familiar thing, familiar unit that a lot of folks refer to when they're talking about things they put in their mouth. But when it comes down to endurance fueling, the easiest kind of measurement is grams of carbohydrate, and that's kind of where the science is right now. That's how we're measuring. With our products, though, it is, if you look at a C30 product, it contains 120 calories. If you look at a C90, it's 360. So the math is basically 120 calories per 30 grams of carbohydrate on our, let's say, on our drink mixes and gels. It's not quite the same on bars because there are other ingredients in the bars that kind of throw off those numbers. But overall, it's kind of like when you're talking about fueling, and performance fueling in particular, the current understanding is really around carbohydrate intake, not calories.
Yeah, and it seems like a much more relevant measurement than calories. I have a lot of athletes still, like Danny was saying, that are like, oh, like how many calories do I need to get in an hour? And it's like, but what are those calories? What do those calories include?
What are they?
Like
what are they
that's
coming from?
yeah.
I think that's probably the better answer, is kind of like, what's the composition that we're talking about? And with the carbohydrate, we kind of know what we're talking about. So
Yeah. And next question would be, what is Neversecond's definition of an energy gel? And kind of just like emphasizing the whole gel thing, because when I use like a C30, for example, like it doesn't feel as much like a gel to me than other products might.
yeah, I think so I'm old enough to kind of remember the original gels, which are still around today. A lot of the brands really haven't changed their formulas in 25 plus years. In the last 10 or so years, I'm going to take a step back. Back then, gels were kind of have the consistency of cake frosting. They're really heavy and really thick. And when you take them, you inherently have to take water with them. Say about 10 or 15 years ago, there was some kind of thinner viscosity gels starting to hit the market. We definitely follow that trend, which is I don't think we're really making a gel. I would say it's more of a heavy liquid. It's really a thick liquid. And the reason we're doing that is that it goes down easier with or without water. It's inherently a larger gel because it's less concentrated. It has more of a water component to it, but it's going to fundamentally you could take it with or without water, which is definitely an advantage for a lot of athletes. And it also is going to absorb and go down easier than a lot of the conventional gels. We have a lot of experience in the field where athletes will be kind of used to those old school gels, and they'll try ours and they'll just be amazed by the difference, how much easier they go down, and how much more enjoyable. And it's one thing after one gel or two gels or three, but what happens when you're at 10 or 12 gels during a longer event, it starts to really make a difference for them in a positive way.
And because they aren't as viscous, do you need to consume these energy gels with water?
No, you don't. I mean, it's really a personal choice, but I think it's what we've heard from most athletes. It's mostly a matter of practicality. Like they'll take one of those heavy, thick gels, and it's like they have this kind of stickiness in their mouth that they need to get rid of. With ours, you don't really have that. It's pretty much a clean finish on it. So you take it, it goes down, and you can move on without water. A lot of athletes really prefer that. So no, you don't really need to take them with water.
Yeah. And I can tell you that I'm definitely one of those athletes that's been ruined by the now that I've tried a Neversecond gel, anytime I try another one, I'm like, bleh, so thick. Please, I need like a whole bottle of water. Whereas like yesterday, Danny and I did, a 24-mile run, and probably should have had water with me because it was hotter than I thought it was going to be, but I didn't. And I was completely fine with 6 C30s and no like regular water, just calorie drink. So
If that worked for you, good.
yeah, I didn't bonk, just was a
Yeah.
little bit thirsty because of the
Little
heat.
person.
Yeah, that's true. I was there. She did not bonk. That's great. So beyond the gels that you have, you also have the C90 mix, along with the C30 mix. And we're curious why you decided to also include that mix within, again, like emphasizing that system and not just sticking with the gels.
Well, I mean, one of the things when we started developing the product line, I developed it with Dr. Oscar Yeikendrup, who's well regarded as kind of the global authority in the space, and he has just so much experience, even outside of the science, into what people want. When you talk to enough athletes over a 25-year period of time, you're going to really start to hear a lot of similarities, and the truth will tend to rise to the surface. And so the reality is that athletes like variety. And you also want to be able to kind of solve all performance, whether it's in training or in race needs. So in some cases, for instance, with runners running a marathon, they may want to stick with on-course water, so they don't have to carry any water with them, but they may want gels. So now we have a solution for them, which is gels and on-course water. When you get into long course cycling, like a lot of the gravel and mountain bike athletes that we work with, a lot of them use hydration vests. So they're holding 2 liters of liquid. Sometimes they don't have time to even grab a bottle. Like they may have their hands on the bars, and everything on the course is really treacherous. So in that case, using a hydration pack that loads both fluids and fuel in one and allows them to keep their hands on the handlebars is advantageous. So the reason we offer these gels and drink mixes is really to, even though they fundamentally are both providing carbohydrate or energy and sodium and fluid, is that you're giving athletes variety that allows them to personalize more depending on their specific race or training needs.
Yeah, and I think in the trail running world, this becomes relevant. Like with a race like OCC, it's a 55K and you don't get any on-course support. So being able to carry more gels is probably more beneficial because you're not trying to carry like 4 water bottles. But a race like Canyon's 50K that Danny's about to do, she's going to have aid at least once on the course. And so she can carry more bottles and get some, at a different time. So she may use more liquid than maybe gels in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is really where you need flexible solutions that allow athletes to kind of plan what they're doing. And I think that's really speaks to a lot of our approach is always about creating an environment where athletes can plan and personalize.
Yeah, speaking about personalization, taking it a step further is the inclusion of caffeine, which is, becoming more and more sought after, like having the right amount of doses of caffeine, especially in these really long ultras where you're out there for 8+ hours. Maybe something like UTMB where you're out there potentially over 20 hours. And so we're curious why the gels each contain 75 milligrams of caffeine, whereas, maybe some competitor products we've seen 35 milligrams, like per serving.
That's a really great question. It's definitely one that we hear very frequently. you first of all, what you have to think about what are you taking in an individual dose? So let's say in one gel, we use 75 milligrams because we're always thinking about what is a dose that you need to be effective. And on the other side of that, what dose is too high where it will start to, when you start to compound servings, where you could start to have issues. And by issues with caffeine, usually the symptoms would be jitteriness and lightheadedness. Some athletes complain of GI problems from caffeine, but the main issues that we hear are typically jitteriness. And so generally speaking, 50 milligrams, which is about a half a cup of coffee, is probably not enough to be really effective. And so the reason we use 75 is just to get it above that threshold where it is effective. When you start to go up to 100 milligrams, you start compounding servings. And by compounding, I mean, there are athletes that are taking 3 or 4 or even 5 or more, depending on the length of event, of caffeinated products. And when you start really kind of compounding those servings again and again and again, we want to make sure that we avoid those types of negative symptoms that athletes could have.
I'm curious why you guys don't currently have a drink mix with caffeine in it, and if that's something that you guys plan on in the future.
It's something that we've talked about. We just haven't felt the need. Fundamentally, we feel like caffeine has its place in the gels, and there are solutions that we're providing where with our caffeinated gels that you have the access to the caffeinated products. We have cases though where we've heard from some athletes, for instance, that said, "Look, I'd like a caffeinated product in a drink mix," and you can, for that athlete, if they want to build a C series, a C30 drink mix they can just take a caffeinated gel, squeeze it in the bottle, and add water, and it actually becomes exactly that. There is fundamentally no difference between our energy gels and our drink mixes from a compositional perspective. So they both contain 30 grams of carbohydrate. They're both 2-to-1 glucose to fructose formulations, and they both contain 200 milligrams of sodium. So we have heard cases of athletes just taking a caffeinated gel, squeezing it in a bottle, and adding water, and it dilutes beautifully. It's easy to drink, and that's a perfect solution as well.
That's interesting. I've never thought of doing that. And now I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, I'm curious with that, like the drink mixes and the gel. So maybe it's like a 2-in-1 question. Do you have a recommendation that once people are using, say, the C90, how much time before the race they mix it so that it's optimal, or does it mix quite quickly and quite well? Because there's some mixes that they recommend you like do it the night before so that it becomes less viscous.
Well, I think I can't speak to what others are doing in terms of how long it takes to properly disperse a product. I can tell you that when you take our C30 or our C90 drink mix and you mix it, it will mix completely right away. It will generally be cloudier though. If you let it sit overnight, it will tend to become clearer. So there is certain, a lot of athletes will ask us, well, when should I prepare my drink mixes? And look, it's fine to prepare it right before. It'll shake and mix fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you have time, there's nothing wrong with preparing your drink mixes. And I think it's a good habit to get into. It's just preparing them, really plan out what you're doing. And you can see a lot of our professional athletes that we work with prepare their fuel and fluids the day before. And then you just store them in the refrigerator and they're ready to go the next morning, and you know exactly what you're bringing. So, but generally speaking, our products are mixed easily and are good to go within 30 seconds of putting them together in the bottle. So
I feel like the best reason to mix them overnight is just so they're cold.
there it is.
I love a cold drink when I'm on a hot long run. So
yeah, I was going to say that's probably the best reason.
Yeah, because they do mix like pretty much right away. I've never had any problems with it. So back to the caffeine for one more question, because I feel like so many caffeine, not really drink mixes, but like gels are coffee flavored, and I do not like coffee flavored gels. I think they're awful. So what other flavors do you guys have that have caffeine in them?
So I think one of the biggest mistakes we've made as a brand was launching our first gel as espresso flavor. It was our first caffeinated gel. And I think as caffeinated espresso gels go, it's an authentic flavor, but it certainly probably wasn't our best commercial, best idea commercially speaking. We've since launched cola with caffeine, and that launched last year, and that is definitely preferable for most athletes. We this year have also launched berry with caffeine, which is brand new, and that so far has immediately become the best seller within the caffeine variety, because it's our berry flavor that we already knew people liked with caffeine. One of the challenges with caffeinated products is to actually mask the caffeine. The caffeine has a bit of bitterness to it, and so you have to use flavor profiles that tend to mask the caffeine well. And so I think we've got some good choices, though. I mean, we've also been really it's an interesting thing just to see where the espresso does well. It does really well in certain markets, like it does really well in Latin America, does really well in Italy, in Spain. And then I feel like I can't give it away in the United States. So it's a lot of it has to do with kind of how people feel about coffee flavored gels. So, but I definitely recommend berry or cola for those folks who don't like the espresso.
I think Americans are generally coffee snobs too. That probably has a big
Might
part.
be something to do with it. Might be
Yeah.
something.
For people that are trail runners, it tends to go hand in hand that potentially there's like vegans or people that maybe have allergy sensitivities. Maybe that's an overstatement that it goes hand in hand. I just find there's a lot of vegan trail runners. So I'm just curious if your products are vegan and gluten-free.
So all of our gels and drink mixes and bars in the fueling categories, our C series products, are vegan. Our whey protein isolate P30 recovery is not. It has whey protein isolate in it. In terms of the gluten in our products, the gluten is inherently removed during the manufacturing process. So it's a bit of a tricky answer. We remove there's no gluten in them, but we don't check for it or verify it or claim it. And so we always recommend that any athlete who has gluten sensitivity uses caution, common sense caution with testing the products. So we've had a lot of athletes that have gluten sensitivity who are successfully using Neversecond products. But we always want to, especially with food allergies, throw out a common sense caution, when trying new products. And so that's hopefully that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. And one more about testing, because this topic is very much reoccurring over and over, especially right now in the trail space, is which we kind of touched upon in our last episode, but just want to emphasize it is, do you test, is it like a clean sport product?
Yes, all of our products are individually batch tested by Inform Sport. It's a rigorous process because we work with so many professional athletes and teams who are routinely tested. It's really important for us to make sure that our products are tested and certified free of banned substances. And so we test every batch of every product. And so that's it's a pretty strict protocol, and it's something that we're really proud of. I've heard about a lot of the testing that's going on and increasing more and more with endurance sports athletes too, which is, I think it's a good thing, and our products are definitely in line. I think use really among the strictest standards right now for testing.
Yep.
I should add the two that we're really checking for the banned substances are pretty much that the key ones are your steroids and then your stimulants.
Yeah. Speaking of pro athletes, you guys have recently picked up Jim Walmsley. You've been with Joe Gray for quite a while, and we also know that Katie Scheid has been using your product for quite a while, and she's on your athlete team now. So for Neversecond, what is the purpose of your athlete team, and why do you think that these athletes chose your products?
Well, that's a great question. I'll do my best to answer it. I think, you know, as a brand, when we started, we were, you know, we received a lot of advice about, for instance, how we would or should work with athletes. And over the last 2 years, I think we found our best way to work with athletes. And so first and foremost is that those athletes, like everyone who is a partner of the brand, really authentically believes in what we're doing. You know, there's with the influencers and a lot of the brands in the marketplace, our opinion is that a lot of those relationships aren't really, they're not entirely honest. I think a lot of times the athletes are compromised, and so it's extremely important for us as a brand that the athletes, and I would say all of our athletes, really do strongly believe in what we're doing. You mentioned Jim Walmsley. I think that the Jim Walmsley story is just a really amazing one. I think, and it really kind of speaks to that authentic, organic relationship that we have. Which, you know, Jim was sought out Neversecond in order to solve a kind of a problem that he was having in terms of fueling and you know, having issues and GI problems later in the later stages of races. And so you know, he started purchasing our product over a long period of time to try it out on his own to see how it worked for him. And you know, after, I don't know, 6 months or so, maybe longer, we eventually connected and had a conversation. And Jim felt that we were potentially a real solution for him to solve a lot of his kind of lingering challenges. And it was really wonderful meeting him, obviously, and he was able to, you know, use our products during the 2023 his win at 2023 UTMB. And we agreed that we would stay in touch and we'd talk afterwards. And so we talked maybe about a month later, and you know, Jim explained to us that how important it was for him to really work with brands that he truly believes in and that he feels a real connection with. And that's, for us, that was gold, hearing that, because that's exactly what we were looking for. And that's really kind of the basis of how we work with athletes. And so that's really, I think, a good view into how we look for athletes to work with. We do generally tend to keep our global athlete team very kind of tight and within you know, each of trail running, gravel and mountain bike or off-road bike racing, road cycling, and Ironman or triathlon, so that we can really kind of spend time and focus on those athletes and make sure that they're receiving kind of the love and attention that they deserve.
No, I love that story of Jim and you connecting, because he's one of the best in our sport, and like for him to take that much time to actually like really try the product and fully believe in it, that's cool. So yeah, congrats on that partnership. That's huge. And yeah, also to have Katie Scheid as well, who had an incredible year, or the past 3-4 years have been insane and have been using your product. It's really cool to see. And it's easier just to, as a trail athlete, to see that and have those reputable names taking the product, to be like, okay, I think they're they're onto something, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we feel as a brand really lucky and really fortunate to be working with them. I mean, I can't say that enough. I mean, we definitely, as a brand, have always tried to work with athletes as partners, and I think that that's not so easy to do. I think, you know, we're ultimately trying to make something, you know, they have to truly believe in us, and through good and bad, not every day is easy. You know, athletes have good days and bad days, and we also really spend a lot of time looking to make sure, not just about their ability or their talent, but it's also for us about how they communicate and what they stand for, and for us, making sure that we're kind of, our values are similar, or is really important as we work with athletes. And we've been really lucky with the group we have. I mean, outside of trail running, when you look at like mountain bike and gravel, working with Keegan Swenson, Sophia Villafon, Russell Finsterwald, and an Ironman with Rudy Von Berg, Lisa Norden, Ruth Astle. We work with some pretty amazing athletes who we at this point we consider partners in the business.
That's cool. Do they test future products or like products you're working on as well?
They do. The athletes we work with in a lot of times become this kind of early stage testers for our products. We think it's critical because and we also think because the athletes we work with generally provide really constructive feedback. Sometimes, and we really appreciate. We don't want folks just telling us they love everything. We want them to tell us what's good and maybe not so good about our submissions, and so we really lean on them to get feedback so that when we launch products, we have 100% confidence that they're going to do well. I mean, one of the worst things you can do as a brand is launch something that is not great. That can create a lot of pushback from the market, and it's very hard to fix it once it's done. And so we want to make sure that when we launch a product that it's going to do really well. Like for instance, Keegan and Sophia, we're testing our C90 orange, which is coming out this in just a couple of weeks, and they tested a lot of our new gel flavors and in their back in the winter time, and the feedback is just instrumental in helping us make sure that we're nailing these products.
Yeah, that's so important. I can't imagine like releasing a product and all of the athletes being like, actually, we don't love this. I'm so sorry.
It should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're stuck.
You need those athletes to love it so that other people will buy it.
Well, yeah, and if everyone's in, the worst thing is if they told you something's great and it's not, and then you put it out and everyone in the market says, everyone's been kidding you, it's terrible. And
Yeah.
that, we have a long history of working with brands who launched bombs of products, really poorly received products, and it's really hard to fix because it's out in the market for a year before you can even change it or discontinue it. And for us as a brand, it's really important to make sure that we don't build a reputation that's and kind of shake confidence in consumers. We want to make sure that consumers really and athletes really enjoy and benefit from our products.
Definitely. So to close out our little Q&A here, a couple of last questions. First one being, where can people purchase your product this year? Are you guys still online? Are you in retail stores anywhere?
We've been expanding retail dramatically. We have our own online store, never2.com. That has been quite busy. It's been a really brisk start to the 2024 season. In 2023, we added about 80 retailers, and then we added another 60 since then. So we're up to about 140 retailers within the United States. A lot of those retailers are located on our website, and we do really see the importance and value the importance of local retailers because it's a great opportunity for some folks who are not comfortable buying online. They want to go to their local bike shop or their local running store, and this gives them a chance to really find Neversecond no matter where they live. Our goal over the next year is to increase that by have to be in more than 300 stores within the US. And then we're also expanding our in-store presence as well in Europe a lot this year.
Perfect. I love to hear that. Yeah, because I have a lot of people that are always asking that question. So go check out the website, see where they're selling in retail stores, maybe near you. And
well,
then
I'm going to add a plug right near
okay.
right where you and near where you and Danny are. We just entered Alpenglow.
Oh, nice.
I think the shipment just arrived today.
That's Benalmádena, right?
Yep, that is.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. So if you're racing Broken Arrow in Western states and don't have enough room in your luggage, stop by Alpenglow and get your Neversecond before those races.
Yeah.
There we go. Nice plug. I like it. And then last question is, what races will Neversecond be at this year so that people can kind of meet you guys in person?
We're at a lot of events. So one of the things we really believe in is meeting athletes where they are and where they train and where they compete. So last year we did about approximately 15 events across all endurance sports, whether it's gravel, mountain bike, Ironman. This year we started adding a lot of trail events. So this year we're at 32 events, either as the expo or also as the sponsor. In every event we're at, there will be a booth where we're sampling and selling our products. In the trail running space, we're at, we're at a lot of races this year. We're at Desert Rats in in Durango. The Canyons, we're going to be at Leadville 100, Pikes Peak Ascent. There's a few more in here. But yeah, we're going to be at quite a number of we're going to be in Chamonix at for UTMB, Lavaredo, quite a number. So we're really excited about that this year. And I think we're at least 9 or 10 trail running events. So we're really excited to be kind of meeting the athletes at those events.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see you guys out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure we're running into each other quite a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, that's awesome that is your philosophy, is meeting athletes where they are, because I know in the trail space, people definitely love having that personal connection with the brands that they use. And we've also heard that you have a new sodium additive product that's coming out, and we are wondering if you could give us kind of a spiel on that and what it is and what it does.
Sure. So one of the things we've been thinking about as a brand is how we can further allow athletes to personalize their drink mixes. Roughly 5% of athletes, gets a little bit of a broad number, fall into kind of this heavier sodium sweaters, which is kind of outside the norm. They put out more sodium. They sweat out more sodium than kind of the average athlete. And so if they use Neversecond products, especially over long course athletes, if they're out for 3 hours or longer and they're taking 90 grams an hour, with our existing products, they can only, if you're taking 200 milligrams of sodium per 30 grams of carbohydrate, at 90 grams, you're only getting 600 milligrams per hour. Now that is sufficient for the vast majority of athletes. However, there are certain athletes where that isn't going to be sufficient and they need a little bit of sodium supplementation. So we're launching a new product. It's called NA200. It is what it is fundamentally is a liquid sodium additive. Super simple product, yet it's super effective and practical. Each serving, it basically is a liquid vessel. The user will just pour out into the cap, and each capful contains 200 milligrams of sodium, and then they can add that capful to the drink mixes to further increase the sodium levels in their mixes. So as an example, one of our athletes, Russell Finsterwald, he's a heavy sodium sweater. He sweats about 1.5 grams, so more than twice what most athletes sweat out in terms of sodium. Using our products, he's going to have a deficit of 800 plus milligrams of sodium per hour. This will be a really easy and simple solution for Russell that will allow him to supplement his sodium intake. The idea is, again, to land on the right numbers, to help athletes really come up with a full, personalized, complete solution for their performance needs.
That'll be huge. And when does that come out for you guys?
We're targeting May 1, and I think we're going to hit it. We're really excited about this product. Something that we feel is going to be really practical and really useful for a lot of athletes, especially athletes that are in the warmer climates. I should add that one of the things that, one of our frustrations, and I think it's more of a kind of one of the things we notice with other brands, is they provide these kind of kitchen sink high sodium values in their products that really aren't based in science, and they really can't be personalized. Philosophically, Neversecond approaches things with, well, you can always put in, but you really can't take away. And so this really is a modular solution that allows athletes to personalize, and we're really excited about it. And again, we're hoping for May 1 as a launch date.
Just in time for those hot races.
And I was like, there's a race end of June, so you have just enough time to figure out if it works for you. No, that's super exciting. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So yeah, it'll be super exciting seeing you the end of April.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us again, for doing this Q&A about Neversecond. Always a pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you both.